Hello and welcome to another episode of Scavenger Life. This is episode number 148 at scavengerlife.com. And we are recording in Amsterdam.
Live in Amsterdam.
The Netherlands. I'm trying to be quiet because there's like other people in the house.
Yeah.
This is weird that we're like just talking to ourselves. So, how was our week?
It's been a good week for us, right? I mean,
yeah.
We were a little slowed down by just we've been traveling a lot, so I think the time difference hit us, and there were a couple of days where we were kind of just sleeping all day long.
I did not mean to do that. Usually we fight very hard not to do that, but we couldn't. It was like impossible.
And I posted a picture of Ryan sleeping on the blog, and several people seemed like it was like I crossed a line.
Well, what's funny is you posted it on Twitter just to like whatever, our friends, and then you were like, I'm going to post that picture of you sleeping. Is that okay? I'm like, didn't you already post it to Twitter and now you're asking me permission?
I guess it's just because it's very like, because it's just so defenseless or helpless. I guess people are like, don't do that.
But I mean, most of the pictures you've ever taken of me sleeping, I look like a complete dead person. That picture did not look that bad.
Yeah, everyone looks like that, I think.
Yeah.
So, sleeping, yeah. But we aren't sleeping now. Okay, first of all, I just want to say hello to the newcomer. You know, those of you who may be stumbling upon this podcast. I just want to be real clear that this podcast is more about like the lifestyle of selling things on eBay and online.
Yes.
You know, it's when I watch other people's podcasts or hear them and watch their YouTube, its videos, there's a lot of how-to, and that's awesome. And we've done some of that.
Yeah.
But I really feel like what we're trying to do here is like, you know, once you learn how to find something and sell it, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting to me is then like, how do you consistently run a business month after month and depend on that income to pay all of your bills?
Right.
Know?
And how does your life change because you have that flexibility?
And then, you know, we have this blog at scavengerlife.com where, I mean, really the comments have been great. I really am enjoying the people that choose to come and talk because these are people, many of them doing the same things, who are running full-time businesses. And I just love the things we all talk about, you know.
Yeah, I feel like there's a very vibrant conversation that's happening through the comments every day.
And even when, you know, there's bugs on eBay that are never fun, or, you know, eBay's going through some kind of growing pains and makes life a little uncomfortable for us who sell there, people handle it well. And we just kind of talk through it, and, you know, that's all that you can do.
Yeah.
So this is our week, and one thing we talk about are our numbers, and this was like a really good week for us.
We sold some high dollar items.
Yeah, I mean, first off, we sold about $2,300 worth of items.
Whoa!
Yep.
Now, not everyone's paid, right?
Right.
There are a few people that haven't paid.
A couple of people that haven't paid, but you know.
Cross my fingers.
Yeah, that's what people have bought, and that's on 51 items. So basically, last week we barely broke $1,000, so we doubled what we made, and we sold twice as many items.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
And I was looking at our numbers because we post them every week, so I can just go back and look. It's really easy. We haven't had like over $2,000 days. I mean, we've had a couple here and there during the summertime, but really since like April.
$2,000 weeks.
Yeah, sorry. $2,000 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, that's a good sign, I hope. I mean, the holiday season maybe
I hope so. I mean,
is starting.
You know, August was really, this year I looked, it was our slowest month. August was.
Yes. I think that's true for a lot of people.
This is probably an obvious thing, but there really is a difference when you're making a lot of money on eBay versus when you aren't.
You mean in the feeling of day to day
in your whole life? Yes, I mean, it's
a huge difference.
when you're making more money on eBay, it just makes life so much better.
Well, because, I mean, part of it is, and we talk about this all the time, you want to make sure that you cut your expenses down so that you aren't sweating it every week, every month.
Yeah.
But, you know, like for us, for example, we've been traveling. We put a bunch of money into our house right before we left. So we were a little bit, you know, on the edge there. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're we've talked about it before. We're trying to invest some of the income we make on eBay into other things, and we haven't really slowed down on that, even though we've been making less.
Right.
So we've been it's making a little bit of a tight edge
Yes.
for ourselves.
Yes.
But that's okay. It proves to me that we have no control over eBay. And if anyone's new, and those of you who have been around eBay, you guys know this already. I mean, we did nothing different this week than we did
I didn't even list
week.
anything. I did nothing.
And we made twice as much.
Right.
It's money. So, when I see as new people come on, should I go on Facebook and put stuff on Pinterest, and maybe I'll do a Twitter account,
right.
and maybe I'll make a blog, or, maybe I'll do all these things. That's cool, but I've never seen us being able to do anything to create sales other than just to do the obvious, find cool stuff, take good pictures.
Do a good listing and list it.
But it's not like we can be like McDonald's where we can do a big ad campaign and, like commercials. Because, that's how a corporation creates business, is they create their own demand by making you want the items.
Right.
Us people on eBay, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So all we can do is just do the best we can, and it seems to work out.
Yeah. I mean, let's hope that it continues like this every week for the next week.
And the only control we have is just over the amount of items we put up and the kind of quality of items we put up.
Exactly.
And about our numbers, like Ryan said, we haven't listed a lot all summer long. And
so that's kind of amazing.
Which is kind of ironic because, we're the ones who are always like, you got to list 20 things a day. Well, I guess the big secret is we don't always list 20 things a day.
No.
And in fact, this summertime, I think you've listed enough for our store to kind of keep up with our sales, but not grow the inventory at all.
No, and I mean that has a lot to do with our other work, and it's a lot of times the spring and the summer is we have a lot of video work. There's just a lot of events. People hire us for doing video for events, and we were hired a bunch this summer, which we don't expect, but we're like, great, we decided to take it. And so that takes a lot of planning, equipment testing and stuff like that. So that took a lot of my time during the summer. I was obsessively doing that stuff. So that's good for the video work, but then eBay kind of suffers with listing. But we still sell. That's the thing.
I mean, that is the thing, is we don't really see a big drop in our numbers because we have a large enough inventory that things just keep selling.
So just if they're new people, right now we have 3,500 items in our store. So it's quite large.
Right. And we're a little bit under 3,500.
Yes.
So like I said, we've been listing enough to keep up with the items that do sell.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is that, unlike Amazon FBA though, eBay is never passive.
Right.
So even though we don't have to list as much right now, we're still having to be very active as far as answering questions, offers, shipping, returns.
Right. And because we're traveling, we have to really stay on top of contacting customers and telling them we're away.
Right. So
that's a big part of it.
But what part of that is, I kind of like that. I like to still feel engaged in having an eBay store.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's interesting with Amazon FBA. It just seems like we've talked about how I've been kind of starting to get interested because people have been taking the time to explain it to me in a way that might work for us.
Right.
And that's like going and buying those new unboxed items at a yard sales for $1.
Yeah.
Send those things in. But it's so interesting. So people just send in a box and then they never do anything else after that.
Right.
That's so interesting. They don't talk to the customer.
Yeah.
They don't ship. They don't do anything.
But I think that is the beauty of it. It's truly, it's not truly passive, but it's much more passive than eBay. You know what I mean?
I just wonder though, I wonder what happens when there's a problem. I guess the customer just mails it back, and then does Amazon relist it for you, or do they just throw the item away? Or
I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Yeah. I'm sure 10 Amazon FBA people will leave messages in the comments. I guess it depends on what the reason is for returning it.
I guess that's a thing I've heard, and the only thing I'm concerned about with with FBA is that I hear the level of returns is high.
High, yeah.
So I wonder how many things you actually have to put up to be able to eat the shipping cost and the return cost.
Exactly. And then we asked what happens to that return.
Yeah.
It
goes into the Amazon hole.
The destroy pile.
Yeah.
I would love to see that pile.
Okay, so let's talk about the things we sold.
Okay, so one thing I want to mention is, this is people have mentioned this before, but someone gave us an offer for a higher price than we had something listed. And it was a very high priced item. It was a $200 pair of glasses. They're these crazy steampunk safety glasses with metal mesh around the edges.
Really gorgeous.
They're amazing. We bought them for $25, which is way higher than $20. But we were these are too cool. They come in a metal case. They're so awesome. And we had them up for $199 best offer for a while, a year. About a year.
And we had 37 people watching.
A bunch of people watching, right? This guy gives us an offer for $225. And we're absolutely, I'll accept that. It's more than what I'm asking for it. But our theory is that this person thought it was an auction. And they were putting their proxy bid in, $225, and we were accept. But he's the one who hasn't paid yet, and so we're a little bit worried about that. But I think also because we tell people we're away till a certain date, they're oh, I don't have to pay for a couple weeks, so that could be why
we aren't pushing people.
We don't push people because we're how can we make them pay if we're away for over a month?
Yeah, I mean, so if they can wait for 5 or 6 weeks after something's shipped, then we're okay with them.
Right. So that was an amazing sale. Hopefully they'll pay. They got a really cool item. I think they're really neat. Another thing too that I wanted to note was for a lot of things we're taking kind of low offers on mostly clothing, because number one, I want to move clothing. We find clothing all the time. It's crazy. And because we think people are willing to wait 6 weeks or however long we're away now, that we're fine, we'll take a cheap offer. Let's just sell a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
So,
and this is where we are accepting half price offers.
Yeah, half price offers.
Whatever. Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of random stuff. I mean, it really just shows the character of our store, where we're selling shoes, jackets, art, knickknacks, my military stuff.
Tons of stuff.
We bought this huge lot of military sleeping bags.
Yep, those have been selling.
Probably about 2 years ago, and we're still selling them. It was a huge lot, so we're just slowly, every month, we sell a handful of them.
Yeah, till they're gone.
We're definitely making, it's pure profit at this point. Yeah. But it's just a lot of storage.
They're bulky because they're sleeping bags, but they take up a bit of space.
With as far as jackets go, clothing, I mean, we've talked about it before that we built our eBay business on clothes.
On clothing, yeah.
Because I think a lot of people who start, they start with clothes because clothes are the easiest thing to find.
They're the easiest to find. They're the easiest to store, and they're the easiest to ship. Right. They don't break, et cetera, et cetera.
But I think we haven't really kind of had an official talk between ourselves about this, but I feel like we're slow. We don't really buy clothes anymore. Yeah. We buy jackets every now and again if they're cheap.
They're really nice.
And really awesome. Yeah. But I think we're kind of into just moving our clothing inventory out and not really, it's replenishing.
Right. I think we're, like you said, buying higher quality clothes like jackets or brand, or, I buy overalls because they sell like crazy. So I buy overalls. And shoes, but we're real picky about shoes now too. They have to be super high quality, good brand, you know?
And I think that just might happen to a lot of us who scavenge, is that over time your store actually can change because your interests change or your skills change to where you start only looking for the higher dollar items. I think a lot of things with clothes is they're just the profit margin isn't as good as we find on other things.
Right. Right. And there's a lot of competition for clothes. I mean, like I was saying a few weeks ago, I bought a pair of, nice dress jeans. They're like Old Navy jeans for $6. I can't compete with that. Like, that's I'm not going to sell something for $6, so why compete with those people on that item?
And it's also just interest. I mean, we really had a lot of fun buying and selling clothes. Like,
right.
We kind of like all the style and you know, the quality and the age of different pieces of the clothing. But I don't think we're as excited about that anymore. Like, today we were at this flea market and just a lot of people were selling clothes.
So many people selling clothes.
I really couldn't be very interested. I was like,
we didn't look at anything on there. Except for some boots. We can talk about that later. We bought a bunch of certain kind of boots.
So that's the other thing about this week is that we're, quote unquote, on vacation. We're in Amsterdam for 3.5 weeks or so, and we're about a week into our vacation. Yeah. So we've been away from home for 2 weeks now.
Before this,
it feels like it's been forever.
It feels like a long time.
We have 76 items that sold during those 2 weeks.
Oh, I have to ship all those,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, real quick, we've only been away for 2 weeks. Wow, that's
crazy. So 76 items in 2 weeks, and we're here for 3.5 more weeks.
3.5 more weeks. So we might have over 150 items.
Wow.
And only 3 people have asked for their money back.
Oh, it's only 3.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Someone asked me today, like, aren't you nervous that people aren't going to buy or that people are going to get angry? Sure. And I mean, for sure, when we were getting on the plane to start our trip, I was like, oh man, God. What if we don't make any money? What if no one buys anything? Because, I mean, 6 weeks is a long time for someone to wait. Yeah. I mean, the good thing is as our trip continues, we change our handling time. Yeah. So, first it's a 6 weeks handling time, then it's a 4 week, then a 3 weeks. Right. So as it gets closer to when we go home, people are waiting less and less, and it's less of a kind of a hard thing.
And something that does happen is people won't pay attention to the handling time, the big banner on our store and our listings,
or the email
or the 2 emails I send them through eBay and their PayPal email address, and they'll still and this is what's amazing, and they'll still ask 2 weeks later, how come I didn't get my thing yet? And we're like, as we said, we're traveling in Europe till X date, and usually they're like, oh, okay. And you're like, oh, great. Yep. It's fine, Usually people are like, no problem. Yep. They just needed to pay attention.
But, those of people who have followed us, we've talked about selling while we're on vacation, and normally we've been in vacation mode. So just to be clear, we're no longer in vacation mode on eBay. Right. We've now just changed the handling time.
And I changed the banner on my items because I have an HTML template. I was able to switch out my banner with like big words that are like, we're traveling till this day. So some people see that.
But the key for us to changing the handling time is then it's official. And so if people complain or try and, give us bad feedback because it's slow, we feel that eBay will hopefully back us up because we were very open about the fact that it was going to take a long time to ship.
And I will say this, I do not think that a buyer can open an item not received case because the handling time is locked in once they bought it. Right. And I'll tell you why I know this. This is annoying. I bought like a little SIM card adapter because we have like phones that we use in Europe, and it has a different size SIM card. So I ordered these SIM card adapters at the beginning of the week before we left, and I needed it by Saturday. So I messaged like 2 sellers, and I was like, I need these by Saturday. Will they get here? And both of them said yes. So I bought it from 2 different people just to be sure. Neither of them got to me. So I tried to open an item not received case, and they're like, oh, you have to wait 1 day because the handling time officially said whatever, like not Sunday, but Saturday afternoon or whatever. And it was like Saturday morning. So eBay did stop me from doing that because they're like, please wait, till the afternoon or whatever. So hopefully that's the case.
Right. And that's, in that case, and we've talked about it before, is I think what's happening is there are these eBay sellers that have a U.S. address. Right. And they say they'll ship next day. Yeah. But then when you buy it, I think what they are is they're like a drop
a shipper from China,
where then they take your order and they place an order through the person that's actually going to mail it to you,
which is in China.
So the handling time is not true.
And the problem is for me is because we do video production. Before this one job, I bought all these cables, all these adapters, and you can get them cheap from China, but I tried to buy all of them from the US because I needed them within, a couple weeks. And a lot of them did the same thing where I was like, am I going to get this in a week? And they're like, no, it's going to take 3 weeks.
So as a buyer, we understand that that's, it's frustrating when the person that sells something to you isn't being transparent or being honest
about
with
where they're located and the handling time. Because I would look on every listing, I would be like, okay, it has to be in the U.S. and the handling time has to be, this week.
And so I think that's why now we're trying to be totally honest with our handling time. That we encourage people to buy from us, but it's just going to take a while.
Yeah.
And so far, 76 people have been okay with that.
Yeah,
so that's good. So cool being in Amsterdam. We love it.
It's great.
I was thinking we might even do a whole podcast on why we love Amsterdam.
I think it's a good one. I think they're not called French fries here. They're like Belgian fries.
You're really into the French fries.
Because we ate them like 3 days in a row.
They're good.
They're really good.
French fries are good in any language.
Yeah, any country.
They just happen to have entire stores or entire restaurants where all they serve are French fries
with mayonnaise,
which is great.
It's delicious.
Yes, it's a good cheap snack. But so one thing we do is we like to take lots of walks. Amsterdam is very walkable.
Yeah.
A city. It's really great.
I'm wearing my shoes out, basically.
And we find a lot of stuff on the streets, just like we do it's New York. You know? It kind of reminds me of a Martin from things I find in the trash.
Garbage.
Things I find in the garbage. Yeah.
Garbage finds.
We interviewed him where he's in Montreal and he just walks around and he finds amazing things in the trash. We aren't quite as aggressive as he is, going through big trash bags, but just people will put out items
for people to
that
take.
You can just grab.
Like what we've been doing lately, which we were just like hysterically laughing at, is we were kicking every trash bag that we went by.
That's right.
And some of them we were like, there's something in there,
as a Martin says, if you kick in it and if it's squishy and has garbage juice, you ignore it. But if you kick it and it's like hard or,
it feels like there's a box material in there or something.
That's when you open it.
Oh man. People definitely think that we're like homeless people.
Nah, we're pretty nice looking.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the other thing is we talked about it is last year, it's interesting for us to travel and to look in different cultures, their relationship to salvage or recycling or thrifting or it's whatever that you want to call it. And like they have some small like thrift stores.
Yeah.
Called like Crinkle Loops or whatever.
Kring Loop Winkle.
Yeah.
Kring Loop Winkle.
I guess it's kind of like in England, like the charity shops, but they're very small.
Yeah.
Really kind of low quality stuff.
And the stuff
really
is priced high.
Yep.
Like you're like, oh, a pair of shoes, €20.
Yeah.
That's too expensive.
I mean, although in Amsterdam, there's a section of Amsterdam that's more like industrial, and there are these huge warehouses, and these two have like a furniture kind of storage stores where you can go there, and they have gorgeous like industrial furniture.
Yeah, and mid-century modern.
That's actually, if we lived here and you were buying it for it yourself, they're really good deals.
Good prices.
I mean, super gorgeous.
Beautiful vintage, yes.
But definitely not at the price that you could buy it.
Oh, you couldn't resell it, but it's a great price if you're like, I need a beautiful mid-century couch.
Yeah.
You get it there.
So we're always still, and we even, ask people like, well, how much when someone dies? Like, where does all that stuff go?
Yeah.
And no one really has a good answer. I just don't quite. And the only thing I can think of is just population. There's 300 million people in America, so there's just a lot of turnover. And whereas, you're in, it's Netherlands, I mean, there's like 15 million people, so maybe there just isn't enough turnover for there to be, auctions and estate sales and... I don't know.
Although the friend who we're staying with, he said he was going to help us find an auction. So we'll see if he follows through and if, it's a super high-end paintings and stuff, or is it like just people's stuff from their house? Like I would love to see like what is it?
Yeah, I mean, so we're still, this is what we do for fun. So we're gonna we're gonna explore this Dutch culture and see where their stuff is.
Yeah.
And so it made me think of, or eating French fries one day. It was it really reminds me of like part of me wants to become like a merchant like the old days, because you can find all this stuff, and we brought some duffel bags, so we'll check those in, but we're really limited to what we can carry home affordably.
Right. You want to sail a boat across the ocean.
I was thinking I wonder how big of a boat you would have to buy that could actually handle
just
traveling
stuff
on the ocean. And then big enough to where you could stuff it with like furniture. And what if you were to go back and forth, like buy stuff here, take it to America, and then buy stuff, and then like imagine all the stuff in our eBay store now. You like fill that up and bring it all over here.
So like that is building an empire. By the way, you have a boat that you sail across the ocean.
More like a pirate style, where it's like very low key.
Well, it would be pirate style, but isn't that what people do?
Like you're cooking on an open fire on the deck.
On the deck, yeah. You're camping, basically. Yeah. Isn't that what people do when they do actually export stuff from Europe and the Middle East and whatever? They'll send it in a big cargo ship.
I'm just thinking
instead of you sailing across the ocean.
I'm just thinking like that's just like a lot of paperwork, and it goes into a dock with like
How long does it take to sail from Amsterdam to Washington, D.C.?
I bet you could do it in like 5 days.
Holy shit.
Don't you think?
No, I don't think so. I think you need to Google it, because I would love to know. But also, number one, you have to buy a boat. Where would we store a boat? We don't live near the ocean.
No, it's just like anything. If we decided that that's what we could do... So it'd just be the old days of, being a merchant. Being a merchant, not...
merchant marines.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting,
Yeah. No, but that's kind of like, we see stuff, and we're like, I wish I could bring that home, but it's just, I can't put it in my luggage.
That's what they used to do. I mean, think about it. It's almost like we're all doing this throwback. I mean, that's what they used to do in the old days. They would, like, trek to China.
Yeah.
And they would find, like salt and...
spices
like cinnamon. That's it. Like they'd be like, we want all this cinnamon, and then they would just put it on
because
boats,
no one's ever heard of it.
And then they would just ship it back.
Yeah,
so awesome.
That's it. Yep, that's how civilization changed. Yeah,
we could be like
the Silk Road.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And speaking of silk, I mean, let's talk about.
Speaking of silk, that was a good.
Let's talk about some of our customer issues, which we all have. You have customer issues. It's not a deal breaker. It's reality, and the only control we have is how we react to it.
Exactly.
So this week we had, it's mentioned, we've been noticing customers are using the hassle-free returns more often.
Yes.
And this is where a customer can start a return automatically, not have to contact us. And
they print a label.
And mail it back to us. But the one thing is, it's more like Amazon, where they can say whose fault it is.
The reason.
And so we've been lately having more than we like people saying we've done something wrong. And this woman bought some fabric from us.
Yes.
And she said we did something wrong.
Well, it's very bizarre, though, because she said item is defective, but it's a piece of fabric.
And she said it was too dry. And what she just means, I'm sure, is just she was hoping for like silky, soft silk.
Right, because it was silk, raw silk.
And it was more kind of like stiffer.
It's kind of a thick raw silk.
Right.
Yeah.
And and so it's fine. She's not happy. I get it. But she's saying we did something wrong. Anyway, the problem with this automated returns is then, so we were like, okay, we're going to, argue that. Yeah, we're going to dispute that. The problem is eBay doesn't make that clear to the buyer that that that's happening. Like
it's almost like an invisible process. You're supposed to dispute it after it's returned to you, basically being like, this is not defective. And then eBay's supposed to do something, but they don't tell you or the buyer that that's happening.
Yeah, I guess what we would expect is there would be a page where buyer and seller could see what each of us had said.
Like the resolution center. It's just like that.
And shows both the buyer and seller where the
like where it stands,
process
right?
is.
Yeah, exactly.
So the buyer actually wrote to us and said, the item got to you. Where's its refund? Right. And so I just started to talk to her through eBay as messages. I mean, this is like the old days, quote unquote old days. I just, told her our concern with why she did this, and she was like, I had no idea that you guys were going to get charged to.
Right.
And
she's a seller too,
right.
Actually.
And she was like, well, I'll gladly pay to have things shipped. I don't care. I just wanted the money back. And we're like, unfortunately, there's no way for us to change what's happening. Like, she's already telling eBay we should pay for everything,
and that's that. She
can't go change her mind. So you know what? We just went ahead and just refunded her everything. She was cool. She was nice. We gave her all of her it's money back for everything to ship both ways. We ate it, and she gave us good feedback.
Right.
And so I just bring this up because I just this is where, if anyone from eBay is hearing this, this is where this process is not making things easier.
Right.
It's actually creating a barrier between us and a buyer. Like, we were willing to coordinate with her.
Right.
But eBay was giving us no tools to do that.
Like, what's weird is once the person says item defective or, whatever, the seller did something wrong, whatever those choices are, that there's no way to, like, change that, like, actually, no, I'm not going to pay for the shipping, because of course you would want to take that off, but they don't let you. They don't let anybody change it. It's just locked in. You can't even call eBay and get them to change it. Right. So it's kind of like, it sucks. So what do you do?
It's unfortunate, but like we always say, we just, the person was nice. We'll just eat the costs. Right. I mean, but we couldn't do that on every its return because we aren't a big enough. We don't sell enough every month where we could eat all the shipping on everything that people sent back.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe people can do that on Amazon, where if they're selling hundreds of items or more every month, they could eat, 10 of them, but we can't.
We can't. Yeah.
The other interesting thing was with a customer was, if you've sold on eBay for a while, that sometimes people from a theater will buy clothes from you.
Right, like a theatrical company.
And so we actually had a woman email us and said, I want to buy 2 coats from you, but I just want you to know that I might send them both back.
Right. 1 or 2 of them back.
Is that okay? It's with the Shakespeare Company. I mean, number one, it's very cool she asked us.
Right.
So
but some people don't.
That's nice. Again, this is like the old eBay where like buyer and
people are talking.
Yeah, where like we're just people and we both understand this and we're like having a conversation.
And what we said was, that's not a problem as long as you're okay paying for all the shipping back and forth. Like, I'll give you a refund for the price of the item if you don't need it or don't want it.
I also said, but please let this be an honest transaction where you aren't just going to order these coats, wear them for a short, a theater run of like a week or 2, and then mail them back.
We think some people have done that.
Which, some people, that's not an uncommon thing, I think.
It's almost like they're renting it from you. Yeah,
and she was like, I would it's never do that, so blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Those are just interesting things, like, I'm sure other people have their stories of how they've dealt with people online.
Yeah. But the good thing is, these are very few and far between. Like, we've had two returns that have been crappy like that, hassle-free returns, but then we've had a bunch of other returns that were fine, and people just said it didn't fit. Great. We never talk about those because they're so easy. I don't think twice about them.
I just wonder what would happen if it starts to become a normal thing where its returns are automated everywhere, and if the buyer never has to pay to ship anything. I wonder if that would be more common. Where just like, I wonder what sites like eBay and Amazon will do if there's no repercussion to its buyer.
Well, what's interesting is with Amazon, like you were saying, there's no interaction between buyer and seller because the seller just becomes Amazon. So it's a faceless thing. But with eBay, it's so different because you're dealing directly. You should be dealing directly with buyer and seller. So people kind of think of it like Amazon, but it's me having to pay for that shipping every time. It is on Amazon too, but it's like, it's not like they're sending it back to Amazon with a, RMA number or whatever. It's like coming back to my house and I have to pay for it. So it is different.
It's strange.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So, things we learned in the comments this week on the blog.
Lots of comments.
Yeah, and lots of, we've been learning a lot. One thing was someone mentioned that the word it's madmen can't be it's used, which we've done where you say, cocktail shaker, madmen.
Yeah, madmen style. And we had, I think, like 5 items with that kind of thing. Because we have a lot of mid-century modern barware and stuff like that.
And I guess she got flagged. And then, eBay will flag you. And then if you get flagged too often for doing stuff like that, then they will suspend your account. I don't think she got to that point.
Yeah.
But then someone else, it's mentioned, if you search for madmen, there are thousands of items that it use that. And we've experienced this, especially when I was selling. It's military stuff. There are certain things that you can't say or sell, or you can't sell overseas sometimes. The rules aren't very clear, and we would list an item that other people were selling,
like the exact thing,
and we would get flagged, and the other person wouldn't get flagged.
Right.
And when we called eBay, what eBay says is, well, it's like a speeding ticket. Everybody speeds, and only some people get caught, and that's just the way it is. So it's a very strange, arbitrary system.
You know what I think it is? I think part of it has to do with competitors flagging each other, because I have searched for artwork. I remember I mentioned this. There was a guy selling fake drawings as real, pretty much as real. So I went and flagged his whole store, every single item, because they were all fakes. Because I was mad, because I was just like, this guy is faking people out and taking their money and et cetera, et cetera. That was a different situation. I wouldn't flag a competitor for similar items, But what's weird is you're like, if you flagged a competitor for military items, like this is not allowed to be sold, wouldn't you be afraid that they would come after you too? Like someone would see you.
I guess maybe if that person doesn't know that you're, that they have a nemesis.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. But I'm sure eBay does, find things too and flag them. But yeah, I've had things flagged before too, just random things, nature things that aren't supposed to be sold, like birds' nests.
Yeah, right.
I found that out after I sold them.
Right.
So
and then the other thing is, people have been just talking about this actually as we're doing the podcast here, is that eBay has been having some problems today, and they had some problems earlier in the week, and I don't know, I guess they put out a version of the mobile app, so people are talking about that.
Yeah, that it's not working.
That sucks,
Yeah, it does suck.
I mean,
well, the funny thing was, our time zones were like 6 hours ahead of like the East Coast of the United States, so like we had our full day today before we started hearing about eBay being down, and we were at a flea market, so I wasn't like paying attention.
But also seems to be just not with everybody. I mean, we haven't had problems with eBay all week, so I don't know why it's hitting some people and not others. But look, I hear what people are saying. It's it's no joke. Like, this is a business. We depend on them. They depend on us, and everyone has to kind of pull their weight. And all I can say is, everyone's got to make their choice. If eBay doesn't seem like it's a reliable place, then they should find somewhere else to sell. And if they continue to be that way, it just makes an opening for someone to come onto a market. Well,
that being said, we did sell one thing on Bonanza.
Yeah, Bonanza. Although Bonanza seems to depend on eBay since everyone's sucking in their
they
eBay,
import. You can import every listing in.
I think the more dangerous thing for eBay is not making sellers angry because I don't know we're like abused people. They just we'll keep coming back. Yeah. It's buyers,
buyers.
If buyers keep going to a site and it's not down or doesn't work or there's a problem,
or they can't pay, whatever.
I mean, buyers will start going somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the sellers follow the buyers. So that's where eBay really has to be careful.
Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely true.
And then the other thing is about in the comments, a lot more people are starting to put their numbers up each week, which I think really helps kind of the conversation. It's move forward, or at least it grounds everyone's comments because people start to kind of see different people are selling at different rates and different kinds of stuff. And, people talk about, I'm selling this, but I'm not making enough per item and I want to raise that. Totally interesting. What I'm impressed is how much people actually sell.
People sell a lot. I think also the reason it's good to do our numbers and everyone to do their numbers is I think it's hard to realize how much you're making every week. Because if you don't actually go and look and you're like, oh, I paid my bills this week. You don't know, hey, I made a whole bunch extra, or I made a bunch more than last week, or, like you're understanding like what you're doing is having an effect, and like you said, your average price per item. Our average price per item has been going up steadily all year. And I'm like, that's the goal we were. It's slow.
Right. That's the important it's
you
number
can
for us.
See that number every week.
I'm also just amazed at we on the blog from people that post its numbers, we have more items in our store than anybody else. So I should feel like the big man on campus.
Right.
But in reality, there are several people that make more money than we do per week, and they have not even half.
A fraction of what we have listed.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's really kind of amazing to me. And I hope that just shows people one thing doesn't always correspond to the other. Exactly. I mean, so it's really, I think it kind of gives a broader view to me of selling on eBay. Right. It's really kind of, there's a broad way of doing a store.
Right, and there's different ways to do it.
And then everyone can just pick where they pick,
Right, exactly. Oh, I mean, there are people who are like, I have 200 things in my store. I made $2,000 this week. I'm like, wait a second. But then you kind of talk about, then how much did they spend on all that stuff? And, what type of items? Are they really big, fancy items? And,
or what happens if they don't list for a week? Will they still make,
all those
things. But
go into it.
It's totally interesting. And then a couple questions I had, which I hope maybe some people talk about on the blog this week is, does anyone buy or sell wholesale on eBay? So, because that came up and I'd really be interested, does anyone go to those wholesalers, buy a certain thing and sell that on eBay, and then when those are out, buy them again,
like basically people buying wholesale on eBay or Amazon or wherever, and then are they successful?
Well, it's Chris the Coin Guy had emailed me, and I think we talked about on the blog a bit a couple weeks ago that there's a site that's being pushed on eBay, a radio where you can go. It's an auction site, and you can bid on lots of items, and they'll ship huge a Gaylord full of stuff to you.
Yeah,
and so I wonder if people are buying those and reselling on eBay, and then can you make a living on that? Because I feel like it's one of those things where I don't think it's possible to make a living doing that unless you're really selling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items every month.
And how are they doing it? Are they doing it at an individual level? You know?
So I like to hear that. The other thing is, as we talk about selling on Amazon FBA, I know that you can sell old books on Amazon, and you can sell kind of used items, but they're it's new kind of items.
Yeah, new.
You can sell new.
Like new.
But does anyone ever sell or have, and has anyone tried to sell vintage items.
Right, vintage one of a kind. Now, the thing about Amazon, and I know this because I was listing a bunch of vintage books that had no listings, you can make your own listing in certain categories.
Right. So, my gut feelings no, and the research I've done, but if someone does that, because again, we sell one-of-a-kind vintage items, weird little things. So my question to anyone out there is,
can you do that?
And what do you sell if you do? Is it only certain kind of categories like kitchenware or something like that? Right.
Well, I know that when we first looked into Amazon, because we had bought brand new pants with tags.
Clothes, yeah.
Right, and clothes was not one of them. So we were like, F this.
Which is strange. I don't understand why... eBay's great because you can sell literally
anything.
They don't care.
You can sell your house on eBay.
As long as it's not illegal, they don't care. Yeah. I don't know why Amazon seems to put a limit. I guess I don't understand why they care.
Yeah.
It's the internet. It's infinite. Exactly. Why not just have a billion kinds of things to sell? So.
Yeah. Someone might know the answer.
Because that to me would be, they could crush eBay if Amazon is as awesome and convenient and on all those things. The one thing that they have over eBay is just that, the one thing eBay has over Amazon is that they will sell anything. So if Amazon said, well, we'll sell anything too, then why not do that?
Yeah, I would love to know what people think about that. That's so interesting.
Because, I would send in a lot more to Amazon FBA's its warehouse if they would take...
if they would measure my jackets
all our trinkets.
For me and list it for me, yeah.
You still always have to do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing interesting thing is this week that you've been doing. I've been noticing. I'll come in and Ryan's been watching YouTube videos where she's learning about a lipstick and jewelry.
It's not lipstick. It's nail polish.
Nail polish and jewelry.
Nail polish and jewelry, which are things that I myself never use. I do like jewelry, but
it's interesting to me. Is like this. I caught you. I was watching a wild animal.
You got me.
Learning something. This is how an eBay person expands and evolves. Is you were just interested.
Yeah.
You were like, I always see this stuff.
But what am I looking at?
But basically? What do I look at? And you just had to educate yourself.
Yeah, so part of it is I was watching videos by Scrapperella, and I forget, somebody linked to one of them, and then she has a playlist about jewelry. It's like 6 videos just talking about all different kinds of jewelry and whatever. I think what was interesting to me was one of her videos was she talks about like 10 different kinds of jewelry that sells really well. I knew about half of them, maybe less than half of them, like a third, which I always look for. Amber, jade, that stuff's really hard to find. But just like different things, cinnabar, I knew that was something. But then the rest of it, I was like, I've never heard of these. I didn't even know to look for them. So that's what really got me interested, because we see jewelry lots all the time. And it all looks like plastic. It all looks like fake metal, not precious metal, whatever. It all looks like junk.
And we were always confused because these lots of jewelry, it'd just be a big bag of just like junk. It would sell for like $120
at auction, live auctions.
Right, and we couldn't understand what people were pulling out of there.
Because all it looked, what it looks like to me? It all looked like plastic Mardi Gras beads to me. That's all it looked like. But now I know, granted, you can find gold and silver, and you can either scrap those or sell them as is. But you can find all these other things: amber, bakelite, cinnabar, jade, whatever kind of moonstone. Yeah, stuff like that, that people will pay for. But I didn't know what those things looked like exactly, or how to test to make sure they're not plastic. So for me, it's interesting because we see that stuff all the time, and we always wonder, why the hell did that person just pay $100 for a big tangled bag of messy plastic jewelry, essentially? So now I know why. What is interesting to me about what she does too is she will buy jewelry lots on eBay for cheap, especially when she sees it all laid out in the photos, and she can identify that might be bakelite, that might be real gold, that might be a Victorian cut glass, whatever. And she knows she can make her money back. So that's interesting.
And then this is where eBay's interesting because, you were definitely learning things from her.
Yeah.
But then you found her store and saw that she was selling things really cheap.
So the other thing is, in her videos, I was able to see where she was located. And actually, one of her videos, it shows her username. I don't think she meant to do that. But so I looked up her username and I looked at all her completed listings. And when she says, she buys lots of, like costume jewelry, I mean, she will sell every single piece, or she'll try to sell every single piece. I mean, some things are like little plastic kids, literally plastic jewelry. And she puts it on auction for $1.99 and it doesn't sell. What I don't understand is with the cheaper kind of junky, play jewelry, why not do that in a lot and just put it on Buy It Now? But
even some of the more expensive stuff like Bakelite, she'll sell it for like $75.
She said in her amber video, she does this great video of how to test for real amber. That's how I learned a year ago how to test for real amber. In the video, she says she sold this big, chunky, amber, beautiful, gorgeous necklace. I think the video was 2 years ago for $50. That necklace is, right now, if you look on eBay, that necklace is worth thousands of dollars. So it blows my mind because she knows how much stuff is worth. So I don't understand that.
I guess you hope that she's evolving herself.
I think so.
But it is one of those interesting things where she knows so much about this stuff. She's a good eye. She has a work process, but then she's kind of stuck in the auction mode. And some of her auctions do okay. I mean,
but not as good as they could be if you put a good Buy It Now price with a make offer.
Right. I mean, especially with the amount of knowledge she brings to her.
She has a lot of knowledge.
Listings.
She has a lot. Like, if you watch her videos, I was just fascinated by her videos because she tells you how she's
a great storyteller.
She's a great storyteller. She's very thorough, and she's like telling you how she knew this one pendant was, from the late Victorian era, like what it was made out of. I'm just like, that's amazing. She brings out a book and shows you similar ones, and you're just like, that's really incredible.
But then she only sold
it for $20. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And that's where I think we think about patience. If she had just put it up, put a high price on it, been patient, she probably it would have gotten 5 times as much.
And it can't be like a storage issue because jewelry is tiny.
Yeah.
You just have Rubbermaid little bins on a shelf.
And then the other thing you've been getting into is nail polish.
And so I just started looking for nail polish because there are these people, and some of you might be those people, who obsessively do nail art or just paint their nails all the time. And they call themselves lemmings. Like, if you just Google it, nail polish lemmings, you will find it. How did we find that? It was in the New York Times. Did you send me that article?
I did.
Yeah, Jay found this article
where
in the New York
people
Times.
were buying on eBay. Were doing these bidding wars where they would buy bottles of nail polish for like $400.
$400 a bottle.
I'm like, what?
One tiny little bottle, because they're like there are certain colors that people are like, there's only 3 bottles in the world.
It's like perfume where, a company made a certain color and then they stopped. And then people are like, I want that color. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So you can find these bottles of nail polish that are no longer in circulation.
Right.
So people are willing to pay a lot of money for it.
So for me, I was like, what if I had seen that bottle at a flea market and didn't know it,
Yeah.
So I've just been kind of researching that. Now, people buy huge lots also. So I'm like, if I gathered enough, maybe I could do a good lot. Or what if I get a rare color at a flea market?
Or even if you buy it for $25 and sell it for $30. Yeah. That's great.
And so when we were at the flea market today in Amsterdam, it was the end of the day and people were giving them away for 20 cents, 50 cents, euro cents. So it's a little more. But, so I was like, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to buy the colors that I think are cool. Because I always like to nail polish. I mean, I don't do it now. It's like impractical. But there are certain colors that I like. And so I'm just going to try it. Why not?
Yeah. And Ryan found a woman who sells on eBay who makes her own nail polish. It's so interesting.
She is one of the, like, top, like, people who are, you know, the nail polish lemmings. They will pay $400, $500 a bottle
because it's
for
like
her stuff.
It's like artisanal nail polish where she'll just make a certain like 100 bottles,
edition.
So people pay hundreds of dollars for each bottle of this stuff. Yeah, it's so interesting.
And like she only sells on eBay. It's not like she sells through stores. Right. I would love to interview her. Yeah,
our goal is to try and see if we can't get a woman that makes nail polish. That's so cool.
But it's so cool because it makes you think like she doesn't need to be like L'Oreal or Chanel. She's just a person making nail polish that people are dying for, you know.
I didn't even know that you can make it.
Yeah, I guess you can.
In your home.
Yeah,
so.
She does. I mean, it's a lacquer base. She gets like a clear base, and then she adds all the color and the glitter and all that stuff. So I would love to know how she makes it. So.
Cool. So this has been a very long podcast, but maybe we're making up for kind of a slow last week. Times. We only had a couple questions emailed to us. You know, you can go on the blog at scavenger@life.com and just leave a comment. That's the easiest way to start a conversation about what you're doing. But you can also go on the right-hand sidebar, and there's like a form where you can send us a question as well.
Yep.
We really just have one.
Yeah, there's just one.
And this is Danomac. It's kind of a long story, but basically he listed, or maybe it's a she, it's hard to tell, but this person, it listed a Hard Rock Cafe
shot glass
from
Heidelberg, Germany.
From Heidelberg. And so eBay flagged him and said he was putting up counterfeit stuff because there's no Heidelberg and there's no Hard Rock in Heidelberg, Germany.
So he didn't know.
And so, but I guess they not only flagged him, they suspended his account for 7 days.
Oh, wow, really?
So, look, here's the deal. Number one is I don't know how this works for you. I mean, we've gotten flagged for things like that. I don't know if we've ever put up anything counterfeit. We probably have. I mean, I think
accident.
I think it happens. Like we've done things like we put up like an empty it's box or an empty bag,
and they don't let you. Like one time, I put up a dust bag for shoes from Coach, and you are not allowed to do that. So yeah, you'll get flagged for that.
So we've never been suspended. The way I understand it is you only get suspended if it's a constant problem, or maybe if you have a new account and so they think that you're starting off on the wrong foot.
So my question is, number one, do you have a new account with limitations on it still? And number two, did you call eBay and be like, I did not mean to do this. Please unsuspend my account. I'd call them right away.
Or has this happened to you before? Because I've been on those forums, and I'm not saying this, I'm not talking about it's this person here.
Right.
I've been on those forums where people seem to continuously try and list counterfeit items, and it's kind of a thing.
Right.
And so what eBay does, I guess, is, maybe they just have a broad hammer that they just hammer everyone. Because, it's so easy to go on these Chinese sites that you can buy all this counterfeit Coach stuff and then resell that stuff. And I think that's what people do. So I guess my point is, if you're selling anything with like a name brand or it's like really fashionable and very expensive, we are always extra careful when we list that stuff.
Right.
Because we know how sensitive eBay is about that.
They even say it when you're listing. Please make sure that this is not counterfeit, or we will.
I mean, we actually kind of like, we kind of are very like hesitant to buy things like Coach or Burberry. Just because it's really. I mean, we really have to know where the item came from.
Right.
Like when we bought that and sold that Burberry coat,
we knew it was from an estate.
We totally knew it was cool.
We knew it was genuine.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, if you're a seller on eBay, obviously sell anything. But if you're selling that stuff where it's easily counterfeit, you got to be really, really careful.
Yeah. Although this is an interesting one where it's a Hard Rock Cafe, you think is real,
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say is, call them, see if you can work it out with eBay. And if not, you know what? Eat this 7 days.
And just move on.
And just sell something else, and don't sell things that can be counterfeit. Or go sell somewhere else,
Bonanza.
All right, guys, that's it for this week from Amsterdam.
The Netherlands.
Yep. And don't forget, you can subscribe to us by email on the right side of the blog at scavengerlife.com, or subscribe to us on iTunes as well.
Or you can also find us on YouTube.
Yep. And we're on Stitcher.
We are on Stitcher. I don't know if anyone uses... no, because we're on 175 people's... lists on Stitcher.
Yeah, I mean, we put the time into hooking up to these services, so if it's easier for you, cool, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so this will be up on Monday, and then we do another podcast on Wednesday, so we'll see you there.
And we promise we will do a podcast on Wednesday.
All right, we're ending this podcast in 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.